Alright, here we go. I'm going to try and show you the first stage of getting these valves adjusted. Now, this is the bucket, as you're aware, and in here on top of the valve is the shim. Now you will see that this particular shim has a dish in it where it's worn away. That's where you need to measure it. You must measure it there, otherwise you're not going to get an accurate reading. Now here I'm using WD-40. When I do the final assembly, I will use engine lube, the Lucas engine lube. I'm using WD-40 because it's not too thick. The Lucas lube is so thick it might, in my mind, adjust the thickness of the shim I needed. So I went down to my local Harbour Freight. I did have a normal micrometer, but to be honest with you, I couldn't remember how to use it properly, so I thought, well, sod it. For 40 bucks I got this lovely digital one. Turn it on, press and hold, and it zeroes it. So now we know we're zeroed. It's got millimeters and inches, so we wind it out until we're way past where we need to be. We insert the shim. We then wind the shim, the micrometer up, making sure you get it right in that dent and get it central in that dent. And there you can hear that clicking. That tells me it's got as tight as it can get without being stupid. And it is 2.403 on that particular shim. Put the shim back in the correct way up with the dish down. Remember, 2.403. Leave that for the moment. Go to my sheet and put in 2.403. And as you will see from this sheet, I have got all the other ones in and measured. Hopefully you can see that. I'm not sure how this comes out on a GoPro. Next thing I got to do is put the camshafts in and then measure the gap. After that, I will be able to say what size shim I need. As you can see, I'm going to need some decent sized shims. These are all the 2 range, but in order to get them to where I need them to be, I'm going to have to change them. So let's just go back over here one more time. Now what I do is I'll put the bucket back in. Oh, bucket indeed. These are a precision fit. So if, like me at the moment, I'm having difficulty, you need to figure out why. Is it just because you're stupid and you haven't got it lined up properly? Or is there another reason? I got a feeling with me it's just because I'm stupid. Oop. And this one doesn't want to play the game, so I need to have a closer look. It may be that I've just got some paint in there and that it's putting it off. So let me deal with that and then I'll get this bucket in. Next thing, then we'll put in the bearings into this camshaft, flip the head around and put the bearings in the other side and put in the other camshaft. Now because this is on a bench, I'm going to do one side at a time, but I am going to make sure the other camshaft isn't in. Why, you may ask yourself. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. If I start turning this camshaft, that camshaft is already in. There are certain valves that will be pointing down, and then when I wind this camshaft, those valves will meet each other, and that ain't good. So one camshaft at a time and one setting at a time. Alright, here we go. Time to start measuring the clearances. I've already done a few. I'm down to number 4. Thought I would show you guys how to do this. This is the exhaust, and the exhaust is 6/1000ths of an inch. So armed with my trusty 6/1000ths of an inch gauge, we will try it. And note that the point of the camshaft is directly up, like 90 degrees from the surface and from the cup. Put that in there. way too loose. So 6/1000 of an inch it is not. So we tuck the 6 away, and let's see, let's jump to, let's say, an 8. Grab your 8. Again, too loose. Let's jump to a 10. I'm getting a little tighter, but still goes in. Alright, let's try a 12. Aha! Can't get a 12 in there. So let's go back a step to an 11. Yep, I'm getting 11 in there, but I can't get a 12 in there. So it is an 11/1000 gap, and I need it to be 6. So on my chart here, I'm going to put in that it is 11. And as you see, I've got 2 here that are 0, so I'm going to have to figure out something there. Make sure I put a shim in that's less than basically 2.5. Damn, I hate that word. That is less than 2.5 thousandths of an inch. 2.5 thousandths, yeah, you know, 2.5. So one more to do. Let's do cylinder number 5. Cylinder number 5 is this one here. Now, you do need to put in the cam bolts, but don't push them in too far, otherwise they will foul against this. Sorry, couldn't see that. You do need to put the cam bolts in. Don't push them in too far, otherwise they will foul against this cap. And you don't want that. So now we're going to do number 5. So you can see where it is, and you can turn these in either direction. It doesn't matter. So let's see what we can do here. Get it to be pointing approximately 90 degrees. You're not going to get it perfect, but you get it close. Oh, and one thing I must mention. Previously I talked about using WD-40 on these. It did not work, in all honesty. I have ended up taking it apart and putting on the Lucas engine assembly lube. It is so much slipperier. The WD-40 did not allow me to turn this camshaft easily. So I didn't want to put any strain on anything or damage anything. So I put it back together again with the Lucas assembly lube, and now, as you see, I can turn it nice and easy. All right, so let's start again. We need the 6/1000 of an inch feeler gauge. I'd like the feeler gauge. You know what I mean? Oh yeah. Don't be disgusting. 6. Ooh, 6 does not want to go in. We could have another 0 here, boys and girls. So let's try something a little lighter. Let's just jump down to, let's go down to a 4. Okay, here's a 4. God, they get so thin you have to be very careful. You could easily damage these feeler gauges. Alright, let's try a 4. Oh, 4 went in. Alright, that's good. Well, at least in my book it's good. So let's try a 5. I would say a 5 is not going to go in. I might be able to jam that in there, but no. So I'm going to say that that clearance is 4/1000 of an inch. So here we are here again at 4/1000 of an inch. So by looking at these, obviously it's easy to deduct one number from the other and the shim and see what size you need to go to. That's the next phase to get this side set up. So I have 2 choices here. I can now continue on this side, which is probably what I'm gonna do, or I can go to the other side and get the measurements there. But I think I'm going to continue on this side. Everything's there, it's easy for me to work on. All I got to do is figure out why cylinder number 1 and number 2 have 0. So I've got to find me some thin shims, you know, like a, I don't know, a 1.5 or something like that, just to see if I can get some kind of clearance. I mean, because I got to go all the way to 6 thou, so this could be a little tricky. Cylinder number 3, as you can see, has one hell of a clearance, 13 thousandths of an inch. So I'm going to need to get me big thick ass shim on that one. But hey, that's what it's all about. Alright, let me move on to that, and I'll come back to you in a second when I've figured out the shims for the rest of these valves. Another little point to note, again, probably doesn't matter, but it's nice to keep things the way they are. To my left is the front of the cylinder head. These caps, as you will notice, 2171, let's say the base of the writing faces the front. Okay, and that is true on this side as well. The only exception to the rule is this large mofo here, but there's no way it can go on the other way around because the number on there is different. Now that will be cleaned up before final reassembly, just in case you were wondering. I mean, they have been through the mill, and I will put them through the sonic cleaner prior to me reinstalling them. I know the sonic cleaner will discolor them, but that doesn't matter. They will be nice and clean. Alright, this is take 2. The light was too bright before and it made it look awful. This is my generator. This is the guts of it, the inside. I've just put it together for shits and giggles just to show you. Hopefully it's coming out clear. If not, I guess I'll be doing this again. It is all been cleaned up here. The commutator has been cleaned up and polished. The brushes themselves are not badly worn, but I'm going to see if my local hardware store has them. If they don't, too bad. I'm not going to worry about it. This is it. She spins nicely. I will be greasing everything up before I put it back in. There is an oil port on the back here that you pour some oil into. I'm going to probably use like a 2050 oil in there, something like that. These ends have been cleaned up and lacquered, polished to a small degree, not to a huge degree, because the car's 1964. I want a certain amount of patina. This is the casing for it, right there. Hopefully you can see that it's been repaired. I repaired it. I was cleaning this and unfortunately dropped it, and sod's law struck. It landed right on that terminal. Yeah, couldn't land here, could it, and forget about it, or the other way up even, forget about it. No, it had to land on that terminal and bust it off. So I've had to adapt it with Mr. good old JB Weld. But this is the casing now. I mean, it's not 100% perfect, but that's exactly the kind of look I'm going for, really. And it was done with POR 15, in case you didn't know. These are the other components that need to go on: the pulley itself, the adjusting bracket, and obviously the fan to suck all the lovely cold air into the generator. That baby I will be assembling tomorrow. You will see it, I will do it, and also then we will move on to the cylinder head. I've just done another quick reshim and calculate, and I've got 2 of these that need more adjustment. One thing I don't know if I've mentioned, and if I have, tough shit, when you put this in and you've got it lubed, turn it over quite a few times just to settle everything into position. You know, the shims, the springs, the valves, just to make sure things bed in as best you can doing it manually. And I've used this tool here with the bolts in here, and it actually works perfectly. And then when you get round to a certain point, you turn it around the other way. So that's up to you what you want to use. As I've said before, it doesn't matter which direction you turn this in. whether you go that way or whether you come this way, doesn't matter. It's resting on a towel, it's resting on blocks of wood. The towel is between the wood and the head, so I'm not damaging it. And also at this end, it's just resting on the edge purely because of the valves here. I don't want them to hit anything. They don't seem to protrude past the level of the cylinder head, but why risk it? Why risk it with brisket? Oh, brisket, haven't done that in a while. My aunt used to do a lovely brisket. Sorry, digressed again, but send me your brisket recipes. Yum yum. Sorry, I love food. Beef. I'm a meat eater. I think, as that famous person would say, Tim Allen. Yes, I'm crazy.